I've told this story many times. My family knows it well. I've shared it with friends since it happened, in camps and meetings, in talks under the rain. It's the first time I try to write it, so I hope you understand me. If it doesn't have the best structure in the world, this is how it happened. I vaguely remember the day we moved to an apartment in that small neighborhood in the center. I would have been around 3 years old. Between my parents and my older brothers, they handled the whole move. And already on one of the last trips, I remember them leaving me alone in the patio while everyone loaded the refrigerator and stove into the apartment. It must have been too late, because there was no one in sight. The patio stayed absolutely dark, except for the small warm lights that illuminated a little in front of each door. I was playing with my Superman, a doll that never let go, when a sound caught my attention. Like a drowned laugh, or a breath, or someone speaking in a low voice. I didn't recognize exactly what that sound was, but I would later become more familiar with it. In the darkness, I thought I saw a face watching me. I called out to my parents, to my brothers, but no one answered. I guess they must have been halfway down the street, dealing with the last things from the truck. Whatever looked at me from the dark approached me little by little. I thought I recognized a grayish face, human, with bright eyes. Then, in an instant, it disappeared with a single movement, right when I heard my parents coming back. At that moment, I didn't cry. I think I just didn't know how to react. It was the first time I saw, for real, one of those monsters we all have nightmares about. After that, I quickly made friends in the place, children around my age. My brothers too. My parents, somehow, fit into it all. And we learned the rules without anyone explaining them in words. The younger kids knew that as soon as the sun started to set, they called us to go back home. The older ones stayed a little longer, but never when it was dark. When I grew up, I accepted those conditions, those rules, without questioning them. I was about 8 years old when a friend and I finished playing in the yard. Some older kids who were coming from the street started talking to each other, and we got closer. For a moment, we felt big, allowed to be part of the conversation. This time, they didn't send us away. They didn't tell us to go. They let us stay and talk with them, until one of them, Aranio, in a moment, told us it was time to go to our houses. My friend and I told him we wanted to stay with them. He said no, he wasn't talking to us as individuals. He meant it for all of us. It's almost time for him to leave. We looked at him confused, and I think he understood that we didn't know what he meant. He agreed to explain as long as we went into my house first. Inside, he told us about the woman in the darkness. A woman that dragged herself through the nights, approaching children who played alone in the patio. A woman without legs, dragging herself with her arms, quickly, without even needing to step into the light for a moment. Gray hair, hair like dirt, a grayish skin, eyes out of focus, impossible to forget. My friend laughed, because even at our age, we recognized how stories like that are made to scare minors into not playing outside late. I laughed too. But then I remembered what I had seen the night we moved in. For the first time, I remembered it clearly. For the first time, I understood it wasn't a dream. It wasn't my imagination. After that, every time the older boys talked, that creature always came up. They said they heard her dragging herself at dawn, if someone was unlucky enough to be awake. They said that sometimes, only sometimes, she would ring the doorbells very slowly, maybe searching for one left open. But she never approached adults. And the children in the neighborhood, growing up, busy with school and work, somehow stopped meeting and talking about her. In time, they stopped remembering her properly. It was like she slipped out of everyone's minds. I think it happened to me too. Until, at 14, with a sudden stroke of maturity, I realized I had been living with the fear of it for years. My younger sister kept me connected to my friends in the neighborhood almost every day, even after high school and in my first year of college. And just then, my two best friends moved away. They were only a few streets away, but it was enough to start losing track of us. And I thought again about the woman in the dark. I thought about her again when I saw her in my little sister's drawings. I saw her clearly, at least as clearly as a kindergarten girl could draw. But the figure was unmistakable. The woman without legs, dark skin, dirty hair. My sister had a problem that prevented her from speaking clearly, but as much as she could, she pointed at her window when I asked her where and how she had seen it. I looked into the dark every day. No reason was going to allow this thing to scare my little sister. I remember throwing stones and seeing something move. I threw buckets of water and felt movement between the plants, but I never managed to find her. Weeks passed. One night, while I was playing with my sister, my mom asked me to wear a shirt she had taken to the neighbor women, someone dedicated to fixing clothes and things like that. It was one of the last apartments on the second floor, a zone I rarely went to. They didn't let people pass after 9 at night, but even before that, the neighborhood was already empty. And even though I kept looking for her with my mind for weeks, that night, precisely that night, I felt a strong fear of her again. The woman hiding in the dark. This time, I felt she was there. Somehow, I felt her gaze. Maybe. I slowly climbed the stairs, looking between them, expecting to see her horrible eyes in the darkness. I walked down the corridor to the second floor, paying attention to every shadow, trying not to get distracted by the sound of televisions coming from the other apartments. I reached the door, touched and handed over the shirt, acting as if everything was normal. When the lady closed the door in front of me, I regretted it for a moment. I didn't want to close it. I wanted to stay there and watch until I got home. But I didn't, partly because I didn't want to, even with all my strength, but because of shame. At my age, asking to stay near the door felt unbearable. That's what I thought when I heard the voice again. Like a breath, like a drowned laugh, like a murmur. Above me, looking up at her from the ceiling right there over my head, the woman with a completely black face was watching me, smiling. Showing rotten teeth, her hair falling toward me. I never ran as fast as I did in those few seconds until I reached my house. My mom says she never saw me so pale. After that, I stopped looking for her in the dark. I also didn't feel comfortable listening to the stories about her, even when the younger children, my sister's friends, started talking about the woman in the darkness. We moved a few years later, and time passed, and that memory became something people treated like a trivial horror story, something you tell friends to scare them. Until recently, 1 or 2 years ago, I saw something on TV in my apartment, where I now live alone in another city. I fell asleep with the TV on. Probably it changed channels. I woke up watching some news program, one of those sensational ones Latin American TV loves. They were talking about an unusual note, the demolition of an old neighborhood where I grew up, to build a parking lot. Workers had been surprised by a macabre discovery, and between what looked like a mess built inside the walls, they found a body modified by a woman without legs.